Melody Jim is a little bit different this morning. I love it when God has me segue, and I love it even more when I pay attention to Him. I know we've all seen houses move from one physical location to another. You know, they put them on these gigantic flatbeds and they just move it from one space to another. I've also had the opportunity to see houses move across the water. About 10 years ago in Louisiana, I happened to see that. The house appeared to be a moderate two-story structure balanced on two huge pontoons, and it was pulled by a tugboat. We weren't that far out in the water, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile or so. And as I watched this excursion going up the water, the whole setup got stuck. It was quite amazing. And it was stuck at what I assumed was a sandbar that was probably just beneath the surface of the water. Now, as I recall this memory, it brought to mind some of the challenges and issues that we face and experience in our own lives. Those challenges and issues sometimes are just below the surface of the water. They're not in our face to where we can see them up front. The tugboat did all that it could to release that house off its captor, but to no avail. And eventually, two more boats came through, and they pulled and they pushed and they did what they had to do. And eventually, they were successful in loosening that pontoon off the sandbar so that it can continue on its journey. Now, like that pontoon house, people, that would be us, can be moving along at a comfortable rate, and before we know it, we can get stuck on the sandbars of life. It can happen quickly, unexpectedly. The problem with that is that sometimes we feel that we're unable to move in any direction. We become immobilized and paralyzed. At least that's the appearance. Many times fear is at the root of that immobilization because we have forgotten to reason like a mystic, as Carolyn Mace would say. When you look through the lens of cosmic law, mystical law, and a difficult crisis arises in your life, instead of you saying, "What have I done? What's going on?" you remember to say, "Oh yeah, change is constant." That's when you look through that kind of lens. Oh yeah, change is constant, because that's the only constant on this realm, change. Remember that transmuting or changing chaos must be made from within and above through a higher self. That's where the transmutation comes in at. You must learn to work within the principles of truth so that when it appears that chaos abounds around you, you can see through it rather than being consumed by it. That's the trick to that. You have to be able to see through it, see the transparency, see the illusion. That's what you do. You're a light worker. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Buddha taught us all is an illusion. All is an illusion. But remember this, a true spiritual teaching will always remain steady and prove to be true. So you don't have to prove truth. Truth proves itself. You don't ever have to prove truth. It stands on its own bottom. A friend of mine told me one time, every tub has to stand on its own bottom. Yeah, well, truth stands on its own bottom. You don't have to prove truth. You must stay in present time to have that realization. If you're functioning in the past or you're functioning in the future, you're going to continue to stay in that area of chaos where you are, because you can't do that. You have to stay in present time. You have to stay in the middle road, that gray area as we call it. See, when you swing too much to the light, you can't see what's going on the dark side. Swing too much to the dark, and you know what's going on then. So you have to stay in that middle path. But here's the caveat to all of that. Chaos is as much of an illusion as stability, because all is an illusion. So you must have a workable understanding of cosmic law, of the principles of truth. Now let me say that again, a workable understanding. Because if you can do this, blah, 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 but you can't manifest in your life, then you don't really know it. Then you don't know it. Now back to the story. Someone or something can come along and help to push us or pull us out of those uncomfortable spots that we've managed to get ourselves into, because it's always us. Looks like somebody else did. No. It's always us. We've managed to put ourselves in those uncomfortable positions. So something comes along to help us to get back on the waters of life. But the question is this: where do you go, and how are you anchored when you're finally jarred loose from that sandbar? Where do you go, and how are you anchored when you finally get off that sandbar? You just float here and there, taking your chances to float out into deeper water and maybe not get stuck again? Or do you set your anchor deep and secure, knowing that it'll hold you steady, knowing it'll hold you secure, even if the going gets rough? My suggestion is, I can't tell you what to do, I just make suggestions, is that you anchor yourself in the principles of truth and the cosmic law. Understand them. Bring them here. Understand them. Work with them. Lean on your faith and your spiritual endurance, and know that the principles will carry you through the good times, the bad times, for they are unchanging and they're true to course. They're immutable. Now, whether you call them the laws of God, principles of truth, cosmic law, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Just different phrases, whatever resonates with you. Same thing. 5th chapter of Hebrews talks about our spiritual growth and our spiritual struggle, and how as light workers, as metaphysicians, we should have it. We should get it. It's very clear. Now, how many of you read the book, The Four Agreements by Carlos Ruiz? Okay. How many have read it twice? How many of you have read it 3 times? Those are the ones that get it, the one that's read it 3 times. Listen to it. Read it 3 times. Whatever it is, then you get it. The first time you go, okay. Second time you go, huh. And third time you go, aha. Read it again. Okay. Book talks about mystic reasoning. Perfect example of mystic reasoning. Pick it up again. And if you don't have it, go and buy it. We keep it in the bookstore. It's a thin book, easy read, but read it a couple times. So, my question to you is, what are your anchors? Where are they anchored? And make sure that you look out for the sandbars, because that's what you need to do.